Did you know NASA once lost a $250 million spacecraft because of a simple measurement error? It sounds like a bad joke, but in 1999, it was a very real, very expensive disaster. This is the story of the Mars Climate Orbiter and how one tiny mistake led to one of the most unbelievable failures in space history. In the late 90s, NASA was ambitious. They launched the Mars Climate Orbiter with a clear mission to study the Martian atmosphere and act as a communications relay for another lander. It was a critical piece of their Mars exploration puzzle. The launch itself was flawless. The spacecraft soared through space for months, and all the data coming back to Earth looked perfectly normal. Mission Control was confident. Everything was on schedule, and they were ready to guide the orbiter into a safe, stable orbit around Mars. But as the spacecraft began its final approach, something went terribly wrong. On September 23, 1999, the orbiter fired its main engine to slow down and enter Mars orbit. It was supposed to skim the upper atmosphere using a technique called aerobraking to gently settle into its final position. But the spacecraft went silent. One moment, Mission Control was receiving data. The next, nothing, just static. The signal was gone, vanished. In the stunned silence of the control room, one engineer quietly voiced what everyone was dreading. "I think we lost the Mars Climate Orbiter." So what happened? Was it a meteor strike? A catastrophic engine failure? The truth was far more mundane and, frankly, a lot more embarrassing. An internal investigation was launched immediately, and what they found was shocking. The entire $250 million mission was doomed from the start because two teams of brilliant engineers were essentially speaking two different languages. Here's the breakdown. The navigation software on the ground at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory calculated instructions in the metric system using newtons for force. This is the standard for scientific work worldwide. However, the company that built the spacecraft, Lockheed Martin Astronautics, had written their software to use the imperial system. Their code expected force data in pound force. Nobody caught it. Think of it like this. Imagine you have a recipe that calls for 100 grams of sugar, but your friend, who's helping you, thinks it says 100 pounds. You're going to end up with a very, very different cake. In this case, the difference was much smaller, but over millions of miles, it added up to a colossal error. Each time the ground team sent a course correction, the spacecraft misinterpreted it. The thruster firings were off by a factor of about 4.405, the conversion rate between pound force and newtons. This tiny persistent error meant the spacecraft was slowly but surely veering off course. Instead of approaching Mars at a safe altitude of around 226 kilometers, it came in dangerously low at just 57 kilometers. That's nearly 170 kilometers lower than planned. At that altitude, the Martian atmosphere is far too thick. Instead of gently aerobraking, the orbiter slammed into the atmosphere at high speed. The friction and atmospheric stress would have been immense, tearing the delicate spacecraft apart in a matter of moments. Mars didn't just slow it down, it completely destroyed it. The fallout was immense. How could such a basic mistake happen at NASA, the pinnacle of precision engineering? The investigation revealed a systemic failure. There was poor communication between the two teams. There was no system in place to double-check and verify that the units being used were consistent across the entire project. No one ever asked the simple, critical question, "Hey, are we both using metric, or are you guys using imperial?" It was a massive oversight hidden in plain sight. The loss of the Mars Climate Orbiter was a painful and public lesson for NASA. It forced a complete overhaul of their project management and quality control processes. From that day forward, end-to-end verification of units and data became a mandatory, non-negotiable step for every single mission. Every calculation had to be checked, and then checked again. The Mars Climate Orbiter may have ended up as a few $1 million worth of space debris, but its legacy is invaluable. It serves as a stark reminder that in complex projects, it's often the simplest details that matter most. It proves that no matter how advanced your technology is, human error and poor communication can bring it all crashing down. It's a $250 million lesson that sometimes the biggest disasters are caused by the smallest mistakes. Thanks for watching. If you found this story fascinating, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more tales of triumphs and failures from the history of science and exploration. See you in the next one.